Welcome back, everybody, to the Tennessee Titans franchise here on Madden 23. Today's episode is going to be a fun one as we have made it to the 2023 NFL Draft. As you guys know, these draft episodes always take a ton of time for me to produce, and the finished product is always really special for me. So I'd appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. We've gone over this draft class in much detail, not just throughout this series, but also our NCAA Next Up series where we went through the entire 2022 college football season with these guys being the star of the show. So not only is it going to be fun seeing players who join our team, but it's also going to be fun to see where some of our favorite players from the NCAA series end up going here. So it's going to be a really fun episode. Fasten your seatbelt, buckle yourself in, because we are in for one wild ride. Our Titans own the 15th pick in the first round. We own a pick in every round except for round 5, which we currently own 4 selections in. I think our roster's in a pretty good spot where we don't have any major glaring needs, and we can really focus on best player available. So before we start, I would like to point out that you can download this draft class. If you're on the PS5 and type in Titans Draft 1 to the keyword thing, or if you type in my PSN, you'll be able to access it and use this draft class for your own Madden franchises. It's obviously a very fun group of players and has taken a lot of time to fully set up. So if you are on PS5 and want to take advantage, I hope you enjoy it, minus the fact that some of the names are blurred out for no reason, but oh well, who cares? Let's get this party started. The 2023 NFL Draft is officially open, and the Detroit Lions are on the clock, with Clyde Williamson projected to be the unanimous selection, and that's what they're going to do. Clyde Williamson, the number 1 pick to the Detroit Lions. The national championship winning quarterback out of Georgia will start his career in the Motor City with the Lions. A no-brainer selection for Dan Campbell in Detroit to pick not just the best quarterback, but maybe the best overall player in this entire draft class. Clyde Williamson is one of the most pro-ready quarterbacks I've ever seen come out of college in a long time. So he's going to instantly be the day 1 starter for the Lions, coming in as a 78 overall with hidden development. A no-brainer selection. I think he's really going to fit the culture and identity of this team. Excellent selection here for the Lions, and I'm really excited to follow Clyde Williamson's career. Our division rivals, the Houston Texans, with the 2nd pick, go with Zyrus Okpoko Jr., the linebacker out of Florida. Okpoko is an 81 overall, the highest rated player in the entire draft class. He is an unbelievable defensive player. He's what I've described him as a bigger Micah Parsons, but with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah's cover skills. He's that good. The Seahawks, with the 3rd pick, select Roman Horn II, an edge rusher out of Southern Miss. Horn was amongst the top in terms of sacks this year in college football, and after a great combine, he has cemented himself as a top 3 pick. Seattle does have a hole at quarterback, and you'd think they would go with Masaru Lee, the Heisman Trophy winner here, but they opt to go defense instead. The Steelers, with the 4th pick, select Noshawn Kimboyle, an offensive tackle out of Purdue. The Steelers' offensive line has been pretty bad in recent years, so now they get a franchise left tackle who can be the blindside blocker for Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris going forward. The Minnesota Vikings, with the 5th pick, select Jair Savage. He is a defensive end out of Kentucky. He'll come in as a 73 overall. A lot of linemen going off the board early here. Other than Clyde Williamson, every draft pick so far has been someone on the trenches or in the front 7, and that trend will continue here at pick 6 as the Raiders select Ferdinand Sullivan III, the right tackle out of Alabama. He's the first player to only have normal development, but he is a 79 overall, so he'll be able to give the Raiders offense an instant impact at that right tackle position. The Eagles have been heavily linked to quarterback Masaru Lee, and that is the route they go with. The Heisman Trophy winning quarterback out of Oklahoma will start his NFL career in the city of brotherly love with the Philadelphia Eagles. Some people could make the argument that Masaru Lee should have been the first quarterback off the board in this year's draft class. Personally, I think Clyde Williamson is a little bit better, but you can't really go wrong here with either one of them. So the Heisman Trophy will be the instant day 1 starter at quarterback for the Eagles. And this is an especially interesting landing spot because they have Jalen Hurts, who actually had a really good season this year. Clearly, the Eagles are not interested in paying Jalen Hurts long term, which is why they're doing this. So Hurts is probably going to be on the move, while Masaru Lee is now the face of the Philadelphia Eagles going forward. The New York Football Giants, with the 8th pick, select Marcus Moore, cornerback out of Alabama. He was really not supposed to fall this far, so this is a pretty easy value selection for the Giants, grabbing the best player on the board. Not too hard of a selection for Brian Daboll, Joe Shane, and Big Blue. That'll bring up their MetLife cousins, brothers, I don't know. The New York Jets, who go with Daniel Forrest-Smith, a guard out of Texas. This might be the first surprising pick of the draft for me. I didn't think he was going to go this high, but the Jets are really intrigued by his size and length, a 6'9" guard. He has a brother who is a left guard in this class who stands at 6'10", who's projected to be a second or third round pick. So the Forrest-Smith family knows how to develop tall offensive linemen, I guess. Speaking of offensive linemen, the Bears select Chidibere Chukwubukum out of Florida. 4 offensive linemen off the board in the top 10 as the Bears get their blindside blocker for Justin Fields going forward. The Titans are only a few picks away. Remember, number 15 overall is where Tennessee selects, as the Atlanta Falcons pick Stephon Fingard, the left guard out of Texas. So the Longhorns have both of their 2 starting guards go in the top 11 picks. That is now 5 offensive linemen off the board already. Fingard is ranked as already the 10th best left guard in the NFL without even playing a game yet. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Seattle Jackson, cornerback out of Florida State, so he will stay in the Sunshine State with the Buccaneers, who lost both Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy-Bunting in free agency. So corner becomes a big need for Tampa Bay, and they get the second best corner in this draft. I think that's a perfect selection for them. The Miami Dolphins on the board here at 13, but not for long. We've got our first trade of the day. The Houston Texans will be moving up 3 spots, and they will swap a 4th-round pick, 98 overall, with a future 5th-round selection. So the Dolphins move down 3 spots. They trade in a 5 for an early 4, and the Texans pick Octavius Thatcher, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. This is great value for the Texans, hence why they moved up. They didn't want the Chargers or the Titans to think about picking him, so the Texans add 2 studs to their defense with Cyrus Okpoko and now Octavius Thatcher. One more team ahead of the Titans as the Chargers select Luke Coghill, the right tackle out of Florida State. This is a player the Titans were heavily eyeing up. Octavius Thatcher and Luke Coghill were 2 of the top players on Tennessee's board going into this selection, so for both of them to have just been picked is not ideal for Tennessee, who now kind of has to scramble a little bit here with the 15th overall pick. There are some guys I still like on the board, and there's one player in particular who I think Tennessee really likes, but that player isn't projected to go for a little while. So why pick him now when you can trade down and get some additional assets? So that's exactly what the Titans are going to do, moving down 4 spots with the Arizona Cardinals. The Titans will receive the 115th pick along with a future 6 in order to move down from pick 15 to 19. So the Cardinals are moving up, and they select linebacker Jermaine Hicks out of Indiana. Pretty good pick. Hicks ends up as a 77 overall. He is not the player the Titans were targeting with this selection, but he is a pretty good player. I see why the Cardinals really wanted to be aggressive and go up and get him, joining recent first-round picks Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins on the linebacking core. Hamilton Paxton, a linebacker out of Penn State, is the pick to the Dolphins. He has been heavily linked to the Titans throughout mock drafts. Again, he is not the player the Titans were targeting, but he is still a pretty good prospect joining the Miami defense. The Bengals at 17 pick Malachi James, tight end out of San Diego State. James is not the player who the Titans are specifically targeting, but he was their number 1 backup plan, so it's not ideal that he is off the board. The Kansas City Chiefs are now up at 18, but not for long. We have a trade, and it's a pretty big one. Justin Jefferson is on the move to the Kansas City Chiefs. In the free agency episode, we talk about Justin Jefferson requesting a trade, and here it is. He will be teaming up with Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs. The Vikings will receive a king's ransom of draft picks, including the Chiefs' next 2 first-round selections, along with Kansas City's second-round pick this year. That's a lot to give up, but it's worth it for Justin Jefferson, who, as you can see by his motivations, seems a lot more happy in Kansas City, joining forces with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Who are the Minnesota Vikings trading up for? The top receiver off the board, Rambo Lumpkins out of North Carolina, who will hope to replace Justin Jefferson. Lumpkins' draft stock has skyrocketed since the end of the season, and sure enough, he is the top receiver off the board, to the surprise of many. So that'll bring up the Titans at 19. The player we want is still here, so we're not going to waste any time and choose him right now. With the 19th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Scotty Pickens, wide receiver out of Arizona. So Pickens, the speedster with his 4.24 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine and his Pro Day, is going to be our number one pick of the series as he comes in with a hidden development trait. The biggest need for this Titans team going into the offseason is explosiveness in the passing game. And I think 98 speed Mecole Hardman and 98 speed Scotty Pickens should be able to help that. As we turn on the tape, there's a lot to like about Scotty Pickens' game, and obviously the first thing you'll notice is his game-breaking speed. He is the fastest player in the entire draft class. He has had multiple games this year where he has just taken over. In this Stanford game, he dominated, although Arizona ended up losing. In the bowl game against Boise State, he had 11 catches for 3 touchdowns and was an absolute machine. When this kid is on, he is an absolute game changer. His best asset is his ability with the ball in his hands. He is a yards after catch monster who will make any defender miss in the open space, not just with his speed, but his incredible ball carrier moves as well. He has pretty good hands and doesn't drop the routine passes, which is certainly a big asset to his game as well. If I were to pick a weakness with his game, I think he needs to improve a little bit as a route runner. He's relied too much on his speed, and while that works against college corners, it might not work as much against smarter NFL corners, but I think he'll be able to handle it. But the biggest reason of all to why the Titans drafted Pickens is his collegiate production. Since he stepped on campus as a true freshman for the Arizona Wildcats, he's been one of the best receivers in college football over the last 4 seasons. In terms of all-time FBS ranks, Pickens finishes 9th all-time in receptions with 317, 3rd all-time in yards with over 4,700, including 3,000-yard seasons, and he finishes tied for 4th all-time in receiving touchdowns. He statistically is one of the most accomplished receivers in college football history, and with his high track record of production, he should be a star in the NFL with the Titans. He will officially be a 77 overall right away. We do have a lot of talent at receiver already with Mecole Hardman, Treylon Burks, and Robert Woods. So Pickens is going to have to earn his opportunity on the field. He is not going to be a day one starter right away. It's ironic because the game gave him the day one starter tag, which I understand why. He's certainly good enough to start, but he's got to earn it. We have 3 really good players ahead of him, so as of now, he's going to be wide receiver 4. But nonetheless, I'm really excited about having Scotty Pickens on the team going forward. That'll bring up the Eagles at 20, and I've got to say I'm surprised Kayshon Boutte is still on the board. He's been the projected wide receiver 1 all season, and 2 receivers have just gone in front of him. The Eagles will not pick Boutte. They will pick Anthony Brooks instead, a pass rusher out of Notre Dame. I was hoping the Eagles would pick Boutte because they already picked his college quarterback, Masaru Lee, out of Oklahoma, but the Eagles don't really need a receiver. They need pass rush more, so I get it, and Brooks is a pretty solid player. That'll bring up the Detroit Lions at 21. They already drafted Clyde Williamson with the number 1 pick. And they go with cornerback Jalen Matthews, the second out of Purdue. A productive 4-year starter with the Boilermakers will challenge for reps in a struggling but young Lions secondary. Kendall Zavitz is the pick to the Patriots here at 22. This pick screams Bill Belichick. He knows how to develop these raw, athletic linebackers. And Kendall Zavitz is quite raw, but he's also quite athletic. I think he'll fit the Patriots system really well. Normally, I would call Zavitz going this high a reach, but since it's New England, I get it. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 23 select Al Ravenwood III, a center out of Iowa. So again, I'm a little bit surprised that he is the top center off the board instead of Keelan Elliott-Jones out of Notre Dame, but clearly Jacksonville think he's better, and now Ravenwood will be entering our division, the AFC South. The Miami Dolphins at pick 24 will finally select Kayshon Boutte, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma. In real life, this pick has been forfeited because Stephen Ross is a scumbag and deserves nothing good, but I'm going to be nice and let the Dolphins keep their pick here, and they end up picking Kayshon Boutte, who's going to be catching passes from Tua Tagovailoa and joins forces with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in the Dolphins receiving corps. The Washington Commanders are up now with the 25th pick after a very surprising season a year ago, and they are going to go to the defensive line as they select Musa Adiwar out of Penn State. The Commanders' defensive line is already really good, but why not make it better? Montez Sweat and Chase Young are both due for contract extensions, so maybe they're a little bit hesitant on paying one or both of those players, and maybe one of those guys is available. The Dallas Cowboys select the top running back, Kiki Rodriguez III out of Auburn. Could this spell the end of Ezekiel Elliott's tenure in Dallas? I think Kiki Rodriguez is really going to embrace the Dallas Cowboy culture of being viewed as a villain and I think he's going to have a big role in this offense right away. The Seahawks are on the clock at 27, but not for long. We've got a trade. We talked about Jalen Hurts possibly being on the move earlier. Well, here you go. Hurts had a fantastic season last year with the Eagles. They think Masar Uli is good enough to where they're confident in letting Jalen Hurts go. So Hurts, along with a 4th-round pick, 110 overall, is going to Seattle for pick 27. And again, Jalen Hurts was unbelievably good last year. I think this trade makes sense for Seattle. On paper, you could argue they're getting fleeced, but Hurts was so good last year, and the Seahawks' current starting quarterback is Sam Darnold. So the Eagles pick Sebastian Cross, an offensive tackle out of Iowa, with their 3rd first-round pick of the day. Cross probably won't start right away, but I imagine he'll be the heir apparent to Lane Johnson at right tackle once Johnson eventually does hang up the cleats, and Cross, along with Jordan Mailata, will be their tackle duo going forward. The Baltimore Ravens select Montague Coriolanus, a linebacker out of Missouri. He comes in as a 71 overall. The Ravens know how to develop these edge-rushing young linebackers. They drafted Odafe Owe and David Ajabo high, and clearly they think highly of Coriolanus as well, as he is their late first-round selection. The Panthers select Keelan Aliu-Jones, the center out of Notre Dame, who everyone expected to be the top center off the board, but clearly the Jaguars got it right with Al Ravenwood III, who has a higher rating and has hidden dev. Aliu-Jones is certainly not a bad pick to scoff at. I think he'll be a starting caliber center going forward. The Colts at 30 select Wyatt Darby, cornerback out of Texas. Darby's a raw prospect, but his athletic upside is really incredible. 6'3" with unbelievable quickness and speed, along with a super long wingspan. He's got a ways to go in his development, but the sky is the limit. The defending NFC champion Green Bay Packers will select Genesis Moon, quarterback out of Florida. So the 3rd QB is off the board here in the first round. The Packers cut ties with Jordan Love in the offseason by cutting him. And now they're going to try to get Aaron Rodgers' replacement again 3 years later with Genesis Moon. The defending Super Bowl champion Buffalo Bills wrap up the first round by selecting Xavier Merville, an offensive tackle out of Oklahoma who comes in as a 67 overall with normal development. Probably the worst player drafted in the first round, so it's fitting that he was the last player drafted in the first round. So round 1 of the 2023 NFL Draft is in the books. Certainly no shortage of fireworks. Many surprising picks, including Masar Uli falling all the way to 7, where he gets drafted by the Eagles. We saw some big-time trades. Jalen Hurts is now a Seahawk. Justin Jefferson is now a Kansas City Chief. As for our Tennessee Titans, we move back 4 spots from 15 to 19 and select the speedster Scotty Pickens out of Arizona to help add some playmaking to the offense as a vertical threat downfield. That'll bring us to round 2. The Lions will start us off, but they will not be making this pick as it is on the move. The Tennessee Titans are moving up to the top pick of the second round. We're going to give up our 47th overall pick, our second this year, a 3rd next year, along with one of our 4 5th-rounders to Detroit for this pick and a 6. So we're moving up 14 spots in the second round. We're moving down from the 5th to the 6th, and we are giving away a future 3rd. So it is a lot, but there's a player on the board I really want. There aren't many guys I like a lot projected to go in our range. Maybe Jeremy Fenelon, Daniel Truchon. I like those guys, but there's a player I really want at the top who I'm willing to trade up for. With the 33rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Cardell Simpson, cornerback out of South Alabama. So the Titans are going to the secondary with their second round selection. Cornerback might be the best position on the Titans roster. They are not drafting for need here. They feel that Cardell Simpson is the best player available and that he would be a really good fit for this team going forward. Cardell Simpson was the heart and soul of a South Alabama team who made it all the way to the national championship game. He intercepted Michigan quarterback Bartholomew Blount in the college football playoff semifinal, which was his 20th career interception in his collegiate career. The ball skills are what really gets you excited about Cardell Simpson. He's a little bit iffy in coverage. He doesn't always make the consistent play, but he has shown the ability to lock on to receivers in man-to-man coverage as well as zone occasionally as well. But again, the reason why the Titans are drafting him is not for his cover ability. It's not for his run support ability, although he is a decent tackler, but it's his ability to intercept the football. He had 13 interceptions as a junior to go along with 7 this year as a senior. But the best trait of Simpson as a prospect isn't what he provides on the field, but it's what he does off the field. He is a super high character young man, the rock, the heart, and the soul of this South Alabama team, who gave him a really nice gesture by letting him score the final touchdown of the game in South Alabama's national championship loss to Georgia. He's the most accomplished player in South Alabama history with 20 career interceptions. I know it says 19, but that's incorrect. The Michigan game wasn't on the main save file for the series. So he has 20 career interceptions, which is tied for the 11th most in FBS history, and he did it in only 2 seasons. Along with that, he has 34 pass deflections within the last 2 seasons. So long story short, he knows how to track the football. Not every rep in coverage is going to be a pretty one. He gambles a little bit. Sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses. I feel like Trayvon Diggs is a lazy comparison, but I mean, I can see it. He gets burnt a little bit, but he also knows how to find the football. So Simpson only comes in as a 70 overall. Not the highest of ratings right off the bat, but that's not a big deal because we don't need him to play year 1. I know that seems kind of stupid for a 23-year-old prospect, but we're loaded at corner, and maybe this means someone like Christian Fulton or Elijah Molden, who need new contracts soon, could be on the trading block, leading to Simpson eventually getting more playing time. So his long-term upside, along with his football character, is why we picked him here at 33. The Texans select Gabe Feldstedt, a safety out of Oklahoma. We're going to move a little bit quicker now that we're not in the first round, only going over the notable picks. But this one is pretty notable in my opinion because the Texans defense is going to be really nice with Cyrus Okpoko, Octavius Thatcher, and then Thatcher's college teammate, Gabe Feldstedt out of Oklahoma. Brad Bellaford, corner out of Arkansas to the Seattle Seahawks. This is a very Seahawks pick. The one word to describe Brad Bellaford's game is dog. When you watch him, he's just got that dog in him. The Steelers pick Kalen Ingram, safety out of Auburn. He'll complement Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Vikings pick Neville Franklin, linebacker out of Florida, projected to go in the first round for most of the season. John Vincent II, a wide receiver out of Clemson, off the board to the Raiders. I think he'll be a good complement for what they already have with Devontae Adams, along with Hunter Renfrow. The Philadelphia Eagles, with their 4th pick of the day already, select C.J. Thomas Jr., cornerback out of LSU. Wow, what a story. So if you were here on the channel last year during my Philadelphia Eagles franchise, you probably know his dad, C.J. Thomas, who was a ball-hawking corner, had multiple seasons with at least 8 interceptions, pretty much a taller version of Cardell Simpson, who we just drafted. His son, C.J. Thomas Jr., plays so much like him, so it's so cool that he gets drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles. After the Eagles made this pick, I was literally grinning for about 2 minutes straight. It's so perfect that C.J. Thomas Jr. follows in his dad's footsteps and is an Eagle. They're literally the exact same player. So Eagles fans, get ready for another year of C.J. Thomas because, man, that's gonna be fun having him back in that secondary. Jeremy Fenelon, linebacker out of LSU to the Giants. He's probably the guy we would have targeted had we never moved up, so he wouldn't have even made it to our pick. Lamont Morgan, the other Auburn safety to the Jets. Tyler Royal, the speedy receiver out of Oregon, is a Chicago Bear. The Falcons add a center with Tommy Kent, so they've gone back to the interior offensive line. Linebacker Nick Brown is a Buck. He'll hope to replace Levante David. Kenyon Mills, a safety out of Wake Forest, is the 49ers' first pick of the day. The Chargers select Chinogo Chusier out of Pitt, and then the Lions, with the pick we gave them, pick a little bit of a surprise. It's Charles Wiggins, the running back out of Michigan. So the Michigan kid stays in Michigan with the Lions. DeAndre Swift is on the final year of his contract. Could he be out in Detroit? And could Charles Wiggins be the replacement? Daniel Truchon, linebacker out of Georgia to the Browns. He was fantastic in the college football playoff. Hollis Francois, wide receiver out of Michigan to the Bengals. Could Tyler Boyd be on the way out? Cardell Tyree, offensive tackle to the Minnesota Vikings. The Cardinals pick guard Toa Tui Gamala out of Miami. The New Orleans Saints pick Justin Savage, linebacker out of Cincinnati. The Rams pick Nate Washington, running back out of Notre Dame. Could Cam Akers be on his way out with him being on the final year of his deal? These 2020 draft class running backs got to watch their backs because these newcomers are trying to steal their spots. Bryson Smith, wide receiver out of South Carolina to the Patriots. Again, very Patriots pick. Bryson Smith is a prototypical New England receiver. He's a tough slot kid, really talented player. A.J. Brown, cornerback out of Notre Dame to the Jaguars. So he is now in our division. Pretty good pick for the Jaguars. Brown had a great senior season at Notre Dame. The Dolphins pick a quarterback, Jackson Kayuma out of Arkansas. Tua had a great season, but he's on the final year of his deal, and maybe they had the same thought process as the Eagles in that maybe they don't want to pay Tua Tagovailoa in the long term. The Colts picked Zaire Savage II, defensive tackle out of Cincinnati, so he ends up joining our division with the Colts. If the Eagles picked him, I think my head would have just about exploded. Of course, his father also on those legendary Eagles teams during our series last year. Archibald Lagarius, a projected first-round guard, goes to the Cowboys. Matthew Allen, defensive tackle out of Michigan, to the Seahawks. And then we have a trade late here in the second round. The Ravens are moving down 14 spots with the Bears and will be swapping tackles, Patrick McCarry for Tevin Jenkins. It hasn't really worked out with Jenkins in Chicago, so he'll get a new home with the Ravens as the Bears pick Igby Prince, running back out of North Carolina. I really like Igby Prince. I don't really know what the plan is because they did re-sign David Montgomery to a contract extension, so I guess maybe they're going to keep both players long-term. Then what happens to Khalil Herbert? Nathaniel Forrest Smith goes to the Panthers, the 6'10 guard out of Clemson. DeReese Thornton now in our division with the Colts. The Packers get Marcus Ransom, and the Bills wrap up round 2 with Shiloh McDuff, quarterback out of Missouri. So I guess the Bills' thought process is their roster is really good. Why not draft a really good backup quarterback? Shiloh McDuff is pretty much the Walmart version of Josh Allen. He's built similarly. He has a strong arm. He's just, well, not Josh Allen. So that'll wrap up the second round. The Titans making some noise by trading up for Cardell Simpson, the corner out of South Alabama. So with Scotty Pickens and Cardell Simpson, clearly the Titans are valuing collegiate production. Pickens and Simpson are two of the statistically most impressive players in the draft class, so college production definitely matters for these Titans draft picks as we move on to the third round. Still a lot of really talented players on the board. The Titans still own their own third round pick. They gave up their future third round pick to move up for Cardell Simpson, but not their current third round pick. The Lions going to kick us off as they select defensive back Alex Weldy out of Oregon. Weldy's not the biggest guy, 5'9", 170, but he's a very talented player with a lot of upside. Could this mean Tracy Walker could be on the move in Detroit? Walker's morale is like super low, so I think he might want to trade. The Texans pick Kermit Cusick, so he is now in our division. Moving forward, the Seahawks improve the offensive line. The Steelers add to the secondary once again. And the Ravens pick Ronnie DeRugi, running back out of LSU. First it was DeAndre Swift. Then it was Cam Akers. Now it's J.K. Dobbins. All the 2020 running backs better be scared. You know the meme of like the Grim Reaper where he's like going up door to door? Yeah, Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire need to watch out. So here's the Tracy Walker trade. He is going to the Eagles. The Lions will be sending Walker and their fourth to the Eagles for their third. This is a fleece from Howie Roseman in Philadelphia. Tracy Walker's a really good player. The Lions didn't really have much leverage in the trade-up. That's why they're not really getting that good of a haul as they pick Muhammad McBride, the tight end out of Oklahoma. A few tight ends going off the board. Masio Calciano out of Missouri is a giant. Jack Ace to the Ravens. That's a very Raven-esque pick. Anthony Ryder-Strobel to the Falcons. Julian Mortimer to the Dolphins, only a few picks away. The big-bodied receiver, Zion Montgomery, is a Niner. And then Quentin Spencer is a Charger. Spencer was the number one receiver this year for Georgia. The top target for number one pick, Clyde Williamson. So Spencer will join forces with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Quez Watkins with the Chargers. So the Titans are on the board here with the 15th pick in the third round. There are some players who I do like at this stage in the draft, but they're not really worth picking now. So, again, why not move back? The Titans will be trading picks 79 and 211 to the Denver Broncos in exchange for the 94th pick, the 123rd pick, and a future 7th. So we move back 15 spots with Denver, who picks Forrest Roach, a talented linebacker out of Oklahoma. A lot of Oklahoma players going off the board in this draft. The Browns add to their linebacking core of Chris Gentry, another linebacker off the board, Bernardino Balboa to the Bengals, and then the Chiefs pick Jaden Wilson-Miller, wide receiver out of Alabama. I think Jaden Wilson-Miller is a total stud. If we didn't pick Scotty Pickens earlier, I would have picked Jaden Wilson-Miller here. I think he's going to be really good, so the thought of him and Justin Jefferson as the Chiefs' top two receivers going forward, yeah, I'm terrified if I'm an opposing defense. The Cardinals pick Benedict Sparrow, quarterback out of Texas. Very surprising pick here. I guess Arizona's thought process is why have one turnover-prone quarterback when you can have two? Sparrow's only a 67 overall, but he does have hidden development. He has a lot of work to do. He was picked off 21 times this past season for Texas, but he does have the physical upside to be pretty good. The Saints add to their offensive line with Tyshawn Stallings, who will try to replace Eric McCoy, who the Titans signed. Raymond Foster-Hess, the corner out of Penn State, to the Rams. The Dolphins pick South Alabama pass rusher Tyreek Callahan. Al Cahal is now in our division with the Jaguars. The Dolphins improving the offensive line. And then the Indianapolis Colts selected Darian Graham, running back out of Oklahoma. Again, these 2020 running backs better watch out. DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, and Cam Akers have all had possibly their replacements drafted today. Moving forward now, the Saints out of running back. The Broncos picked Duck Chambers, linebacker out of Florida State. D.D. Smith to the Ravens. And then the Colts picked Jonah Molieuer, quarterback out of Pitt. Are the Colts finally going to get a young QB they can build around? The Colts did sign Jimmy Garoppolo in the offseason to be their starter this year, but could Molieuer be the guy in the future? So Tennessee is back on the clock. The player they've been targeting for a little while is still here, so let's see the pick. With the 94th selection in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Jordan Ruffin, edge rusher out of the University of South Florida. The Titans have not gone for need early in this draft. They didn't need a receiver. They didn't need a corner. But they could use some edge rushing help. So they finally draft for need here with Jordan Ruffin, who should be able to provide some good pass rushing help. Ruffin is a high upside edge rusher who comes in with a hidden development trait. 6'8", 262 pounds with an unbelievable wingspan. He's got great size and length. He's been really good for South Florida in the run game, but finally broke out this past season as a senior as a pass rusher with 8.5 sacks, a career high. USF has been very excited about his athletic tools since he got to campus, and it took a little while for him to get going, but this past season, he finally got going. Along with his 8.5 sacks, he also had a career-high 27 tackles for loss, totaling a total of 68 TFLs through his 4-year career as a full-time starter at South Florida. The Titans are prioritizing players who aren't necessarily one-year wonders, but proven starters for multiple seasons. Ruffin will come in as a 70 overall and will compete for pass rushing snaps right away. He probably won't be a starter behind Bud Dupree, Cleveland Ferrell, and Harold Landry, but he should be able to see some pass rushing reps pretty early on into his rookie season. So the Titans add Jordan Ruffin to add some depth to the pass rush and could be a starter down the line across from Harold Landry. The Packers with back-to-back picks select Willie Brodeur and Giddy Johnson. Two pretty solid selections, but leave it to Brian Gutekunst and the Packers to have the Fred Biletnikoff Award winner Trey Williams stare him right in the face, one of the best receivers available, and just not picking receiver because, well, the Packers are allergic to adding receivers. So that'll wrap up the third round. The Titans move back. They add Jordan Ruffin. The Titans really don't like to keep their own picks. They've either moved up or moved down from all of their selections. Titans keep your own picks challenge. Impossible. So that'll bring us to day 3. Now the fourth round, we're going to continue to move faster and faster. The Titans do have a few selections. Here in the fourth round, we have added a number of picks throughout the draft to add to our day 3 arsenal as we look at some of the selections early on. A couple of defensive players off the board early. There's Trey Williams. He gets picked by the Seahawks. Williams had an unbelievable season for South Alabama, totaling 23 receiving touchdowns, winning the Fred Biletnikoff Award as the best receiver in college football. He'll team up with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in Seattle. Apis Phillips, pass rusher out of Miami. He's a stud for the fourth round, going to the Steelers. I've been raving about the pass rushing depth in this class. Sosa Hupie, quarterback out of Notre Dame, will be backing up Deshaun Watson in Cleveland with the Browns. Killian Curry, tackle out of Oklahoma, goes to the Raiders. Another Oklahoma off the board. Guido Lecolici out of Arkansas to the Eagles. We're about 10 picks away from the Titans, so here's a little update. As of now, we have 3/4, 3/5, and 2/6. So we still have 8 picks left at our disposal. We will see if we actually use them all as we continue to get closer and closer to our selection. The Falcons pick Benny Dixon, running back out of Kentucky. I really like that fit. I think he'll get to play early. Terrence Carter, wide receiver out of Auburn, now in our division with the Jaguars. And the Seahawks decide to be mean and pick the player we were targeting, Calvin Watson, the talented pass rusher out of Southern Miss. The one knock on Watson's game is that he got to play across Roman Horn, and he will now get to play across Roman Horn in the NFL as the two Southern Miss pass rushers reunite in Seattle. Pretty cool storyline there from the Seahawks, even though they stole our target with like 5 picks to go. The Falcons then pick our backup plan with Emeka Awuzie, the tight end out of Alabama. So this is not looking too good. The two guys we really wanted are off the board. Matt Levine, another player I really like, to the Browns. He was really the one bright spot on the Louisville offense last year out of the slot at wide receiver. Ray Demerit, running back out of Duke, to the Bengals. And then the Vikings select Sukdeo Toussaint, the defensive tackle out of Cal, finally off the board. So that'll bring us to the 19th selection here in the 4th round for the Tennessee Titans. Let's see what the plan is going to be here. With the 19th pick in the 4th round of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Gianluigi Mandariano, a center out of Florida. The Titans wanted to add some depth to the interior of the offensive line, so they're going to do that with Mandariano, who only comes in with a normal development, unfortunately. Mandariano, for now, will likely be the backup center to Eric McCoy, but he could eventually become the starter down the line, as McCoy was only signed to a 2-year deal in the offseason. Mandariano is coming off probably the worst season of his career at Florida, a 4-year starter at center for the Gators, missed some time this year with injury, and when he was on the field, he wasn't all that impactful. So the Titans are really banking on the fact that his first 3 years were really good, and that this year was just a down season for him. He was banged up. So the hope is that he'll, play better. He comes in as a 70 overall, so for round 4, I think this is pretty solid value. He could compete to start at one of the guard spots as well. So even though he is the backup center for now, he could very well start at that left guard spot alongside Eric McCoy. Tennessee still has 2 more 4th rounders at their disposal as we continue to move forward. Jaden Menendez, the 6'7" wide receiver out of Georgia, is a New Orleans Saint, one of Clyde Williamson's favorite targets. Chide Uzuchukwu goes to the Carolina Panthers, already getting pretty close to our pick as the Pats pick Malone Eaton Jenkins, who's going to be eating well tonight. That was way too easy of a joke to make. The Chiefs do another Chiefs thing by picking Patrick Daufriend out of USC. I told you the 2020 running backs are not safe. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the next victim. Daufriend is a total stud. I think he's going to be the starter there by the end of the season. He's a player who the Titans were really looking at here late in the 4th round, so it kind of sucks that he was off the board because we probably would have picked him. Only a couple picks away, Cooley Gundro out of Notre Dame is a Washington Commander, and then Colin Keepers is the pick to the Cowboys. So that'll bring the Titans up with back-to-back selections. We're not going to keep both of these picks. This first one is on the move. We're going to be trading again, but we're not going to be trading back per se. We're going to be trading for a player, and we're going to have to actually cut a few guys in order to make some space. So Jake Hansen and Tommy Hudson are gone, but there's a good reason for this pick. This pick is being traded to the Eagles in exchange for Fletcher Cox. So we are adding a bona fide star in the middle of our defense with Cox. You're probably asking why the Eagles are only trading him for a 4th round pick. Well, Cox is getting older. He's not the same player he once was, and he kind of wants to get out of Philadelphia. It's sort of a mutual split between the two sides. Fletcher Cox wants to leave, and the Eagles drafted Jordan Davis last year. Cox only has 1 year on his contract, so it's not a long-term investment for the Titans that's going to totally mess up the cap space. So I think it's a win-win for all parties. The Eagles get rid of Fletcher Cox, who was an all-time great for them, a huge reason why they won the Super Bowl all those years back, but sometimes it's just kind of time to move on. We're hoping Fletcher Cox still has something left in the tank, and he wasn't too bad last season, particularly in the run game, as he did lead the Eagles in tackles for loss a season ago. So we're hoping that he'll be able to add some pressure to the interior. Our front seven was very inconsistent last year, particularly in the middle, so we're hoping he can complement another former Mississippi State defensive lineman in Jeffrey Simmons, who's also on the last year of his contract. The Eagles end up selecting Brandon Russell, a tight end out of Minnesota. All the tight ends are going off the board except for Leighton Simpson, who is projected as a 1st round pick. So the Titans are back on the clock here with the 28th pick in the 4th round, and they will end up selecting Sekou Bateau, a guard out of Georgia Tech. So the Titans go back to the offensive line here with back-to-back picks as they choose Bateau, the talented guard who really broke out this season for Georgia. A little bit of a raw player, but he comes in with hidden development. Georgia Tech had one of the best run games in the country last year, largely because of the play up front. Sekou Bateau had a great season last year at left guard, and along with our previous selection, Gianluigi Mandariano, he'll get to compete for that starting left guard position, which is currently vacant for the Titans. Bateau was a 4-year starter at Georgia Tech, but never really popped onto the scene until this past season. So He's really coming off a great season, so pretty much the total opposite of Gianluigi Mandariano, as he ends up being a 69 overall. Again, pretty good value for the 4th round, a 69 with hidden development. So he'll have an opportunity to start right away and could develop into a pretty good player in the future. Good pick late here in the 4th round for the Titans. Only a few more selections left to go here in round 4. We'll see how those end up, starting with the Carolina Panthers here, followed by the Colts, and then the Bills, who have back-to-back picks. Carolina picks Reuben Morton Sr. He had a great senior year at Missouri. Flo Goen goes to the Colts. He also had a great season at Florida State. And then the Bills, with their back-to-back picks, select a couple of offensive linemen with Obi Darren and Jurian Pibenga. So that'll wrap up the 4th round. Pretty busy 4th round for the Titans. They originally go in with 3 picks. They keep 2 of them, doubling down on the offensive line with Gianluigi Mandariano and Sekou Bateau. But maybe the more notable move is the Titans trading a 4th rounder to the Eagles in exchange for Fletcher Cox, the Pro Bowl defensive tackle who should be able to add some nice pressure to the defensive line. So that'll bring us to the 5th round. The Titans still have 3 5th rounders currently, as the Lions start off with Mustafa Cairo out of Notre Dame. Nick Tilcott out of Washington goes to the Texans. Back-to-back picks for Seattle. They go Yannick Tybalt and Eric Moreland. The Vikings pick Terry Vilza, quarterback out of Iowa, and the Raiders answer with a quarterback of their own. It's Bryce Evans out of Penn State. The Eagles get a steal with Daniel Minor. Howie Roseman masterclass continues. Tate Miller out of Georgia Tech to the Jets. Jander Valsamas to the Bears. Compton Neeson to the Raiders, and that'll bring up the Titans with their first of 3 5th-round selections as we start with the 12th pick in the 5th round. A lot of good players still here on the board. With the 12th pick in round 5 of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Samson June, defensive back out of Oklahoma. So June is the selection here. He's going to add some depth in the secondary at safety behind Kevin Byard and Juan Thornhill, as he only comes in with a normal development. June may look like a caveman, but I think he plays really well as a modern safety. He's a tough, gritty, physical player, but he's also quite athletic, and he really turned some heads, or at least he turned our team's heads, at the scouting combine as he tested really well. He's been a highly productive player for Oklahoma, playing alongside another very talented safety in Gabe Feldstead, who was one of the top picks in round 2 to the Houston Texans. June has gotten an interception in each of his 4 seasons at Oklahoma. He deflected 10 passes this year, so he knows how to find the football. 8 TFLs, 2.5 sacks. This is a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He's not the biggest, 6'1", 187. I don't think he has the versatility to play sub-linebacker, but I do think he can play both safety spots along with the nickel. So I think the Titans will have a plan for him. Probably going to move more of a depth piece early on, but as a 69 overall, he could be something in the future, especially with Kevin Byard and Juan Thornhill both having expiring contracts this coming season. So not a splashy pick, but for the 5th round, not a bad pick by any means, as Samson June is going to be added to the secondary. The Niners finally pick Leighton Simpson, the tight end out of West Virginia, who was supposed to go 3 rounds ago. It's kind of unfortunate because I was ready to pick Simpson with our next pick, which is ironic. He's a 66 overall. There's a reason why he slipped, as the Chargers pick Sevi Norton-Davis, a tackle out of the University of Tennessee Martin. So the Titans are on the board, but not for long. There's nobody they really want here, so they will move back with the Washington Commanders. The Titans will be trading their 5th round pick this year for a 4th round pick next year. Washington clearly is a target. It's Obulette Derocles, a pass rusher out of Western Kentucky. The Titans are right back on the board a few selections later, and now there is somebody they want with this pick. With the 18th pick in the 5th round of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans will select, wait for it once I'm done scrolling, who's it going to be? They will select wide receiver A.J. Redico out of Auburn University. So there have been a couple receivers slipping down the board. A.J. Redico and Zaire Patton were both projected to be day 2 selections. I don't really know why they're both on the board in day 3, particularly Redico, who is the pick here to the Titans. 5'11", 182 pounds. He's a super explosive player with 96 speed. He had a career season for the Auburn Tigers this year as one of the best offensive weapons in the SEC. Not the biggest guy, 5'11", 180, but maybe you can look to use him as a gadget guy. Maybe you can look to use him as a kick returner. I think he'd be a really good fit as a kick returner, and although that's not something he did at Auburn, and his kick return rating is really low, I think that'd be a good role for him. Redico had a career season with Auburn, racking up over 1,160 yards, along with 15 touchdowns as Sidney McDonald's #1 target for the Tigers. I wasn't planning on picking Redico, but I also didn't think he was going to fall to the 5th round, so I'm not going to complain as he comes in with a 70 overall. So he fell for really no reason. I don't have an explanation on why he fell to the 5th round, but I'm not complaining. I think we got someone who can be a good kick returner, a good gadget guy, and someone who can also be solid depth at wide receiver with his 96 speed. So the Titans add A.J. Redico out of Auburn as we wrap up the rest of the 5th round. Chris Johnson, the running back out of Tennessee, is the very next pick to the Cardinals. I imagine there were some people who wanted us to pick Chris Johnson. I was thinking about it soon, but if he would have been there with our next pick, maybe, but it doesn't happen. Quarterback Nathan Bruins out of Michigan State is a New Orleans Saint. That's an interesting pick. Chris Wallingsburg to the Browns. Kendrick Brown, the quarterback out of South Alabama, is a Raven. I really like that pick for Baltimore. He's going to be a good backup. Napoleon Dobbs to the Dolphins. I'm surprised he lasted this long. And then wrapping up the rest of the 5th round, John Robert Gabriel, the talented running back out of Auburn, goes to the Broncos. The running backs are really starting to fall off the board. Asante Baker out of Texas to New England. And then the very next pick is the other Texas running back, Amadeo Kalu, to the Packers. And the Lions then pick a fullback, Edward McIntosh. So the running backs are flying off the board, and the Titans, who really planned to draft a running back, have not yet. Tennessee does add 2 players here in round 5, A.J. Redico and Samson June, while trading away their other 5th round pick to Washington for a future 4. So here in round 6, the Seahawks pick Brent Bellaford, a defensive back out of Arkansas. This pick is cool because Seattle drafted his twin brother, Brad Bellaford, back in the 2nd round. Seattle's given us some fun storylines with this draft. The Bellaford twins reuniting, the 2 Southern Miss edge rushers teaming up again. Shout out to Seattle for giving us some fun moments. The running backs are continuing to fall off the board. J.K. Jordan goes to the Ravens. I've made it perfectly clear that the Titans need to add a running back in the offseason. They haven't done it yet, so why not now here at round 6, pick 9, 169 overall. The Jets have already picked 2 players in the 6th round. They have 4 more 6th round picks, and although they're giving us their 6th, we'll be giving them our 6th along with a future 7th. All the good running backs are going off the board. There's one running back I really like who is left, and I feel like I have to pick him because we've needed to add a running back the entire offseason, and we haven't done it yet until now. So with round 6, pick 9, nice. The 169th pick, nice, of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Rocket Reddick, running back, Minnesota. Rocket Reddick lives up to his name. He ran a 4.32 at the Combine and a 4.25 at his Pro Day. The Titans offense really missed explosiveness last year, so adding Scotty Pickens, A.J. Redico, and now Rocket Reddick definitely adds explosiveness. Reddick is the exact type of back the Titans needed. As I've said the entire offseason, Derrick Henry's great, but the Titans need sort of that home run hitter behind him who can get 10 to 15 touches a game, and I think that's what Rocket Reddick will provide. As a junior, Reddick was a huge piece in leading Minnesota to the national championship. As a senior, he wasn't too bad, racking up over 1,260 yards and 17 touchdowns. He's a great player, obviously super fast, and I think he's the perfect complement to Derrick Henry, and I think he will certainly outperform being a 6th round draft pick. He's going to have a role in the offense right away as he comes in as a 70 overall. So him and Derrick Henry will be the 1-2 pairing in the backfield going forward. Kind of like thunder and lightning. Derrick Henry's your bruising back, whereas Reddick is your home run hitter. And maybe once Derrick Henry's older, if Rocket Reddick is good enough, he could be the long-term starting running back going forward. That's how good I think he is, despite being a 6th round pick. The Titans only have 1 pick left to go. Remember, we entered with 2 6th round picks as the Jets have back-to-back picks. Ellis Ermarn, the corner out of Georgia Tech, is a really good player. I'm surprised he fell this far. Moving forward now, our pick is coming up. The Chiefs out of quarterback, Mason Sweeney. Stanley Azuto out of Virginia Tech, finally off the board to the Cardinals. We're almost there. I don't really know exactly who we want. I think it was Kazavan Kachachorian, and he goes right before us to the Chiefs, of course. So now I really don't have a plan of what to do here, so I had to think about it for a little bit. But I did find a player who I had my eye on for a little while who I do like quite a bit. With the 28th pick in the 6th round of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Harrison Harrington, cornerback out of Memphis. So Harrington will be the Titans' final pick of the day, assuming they don't move back up into the 7th round. Harrington will come in with a hidden development. I told you guys this cornerback class is absolutely loaded. There are some absolute studs, including Harrington, who we saw in full display at the Fiesta Bowl absolutely dominate. Harrington had 2 interceptions in this game, including 1 on the first possession against West Virginia quarterback Jose Alvaro, who only threw 5 interceptions prior to this game. Harrington picked off Alvaro again in overtime to single-handedly win the game for the Memphis Tigers. Harrington's got incredible ball skills as he intercepted 8 passes this season. Harrington's sort of a one-year wonder, and those are the types of players I've tried to avoid throughout the draft. But this is a 6th-round pick. With how good Harrington was this past season, I'm confident that we can try to replicate that again. Now, Harrington's going to have to fight for a position on this roster. Again, we are loaded at corner. We had 4 guys play really well last year. We drafted Cardell Simpson. So, Harrington, as of now, is CB6. But I do think he's a really talented player, and again, if we let guys like Caleb Farley, Elijah Molden, and Christian Fulton walk, because we can't pay everybody, guys like Harrison Harrington could be of use down the line, especially with his hidden development. Now, once I clicked on him after the draft, his hidden development trait has already been revealed. He is star. So, yeah, I guess it's not so hidden as he comes in as a 67 overall. So, for now, he'll be good depth. But I think in the long term, he could be a possible future starter down the line, especially considering if this past season at Memphis wasn't an anomaly. Wrapping up round 6, Aurelio Johnson out of North Carolina State is a Cleveland Brown. You may remember this kid as the guy who had the walk-off interception in overtime against Clemson, which might have been the play of the year in our first season of the NCAA Next Up series. He has superstar development. So that'll wrap up the 6th round. The Titans move up to select Rocket Reddick out of Minnesota, and they likely wrap up their draft with Harrison Harrington, the the star development corner out of Memphis. So the Titans do not have any picks currently in the 7th round, and I don't think there's anybody we really need to trade up for, so we're just going to move through the 7th round pretty quickly. There are a number of talented players here. Jaden White, Ozzie Duvernay, Axel Averon, all just picked off the board. Continuing to go down even more, Caden Reed out of Duke is a stud. He's like a 73 hidden, so the Bucs got a steal in round 7. What a pick by Tampa Bay. Continuing to move forward now, Archer Baines to the Chargers, J.J. Reed to the Bucs, another good 7th round pick by the Bucs. Continuing to move down even more, about halfway through the 7th round, the Broncos picked Bay Morant, last year's starting quarterback at UCF. Russell Wilson's on the last year of his deal, and Bay Morant does have hidden development. Could he be the guy in Denver going forward? Amongst other notable picks, Olukonmi Joolham, wide receiver out of Kentucky, goes to the Pats. He's a 73 overall. And then the biggest surprise of all, Ole Miss wide receiver Zaire Patton, who was projected as a 2nd-round pick, has gone undrafted. Patton wasn't even that bad of a prospect. I think his rating was in like the high 60s, so maybe not a 2nd-round guy, but he had no business going undrafted. And at the beginning of the season, Patton was projected to go in the 1st round, so I'm really surprised to see him not getting picked, because he's better than 90% of these guys who went in the 7th round. Did he, kill someone yesterday? Maybe he pulled off a Joshua Primo. If you know, you know. So, there you go. That's the 2023 NFL Draft. I'm really happy with our draft class. I think we did a great job of adding talent for the present and the future. We added a lot of guys who I think are really going to help set the foundation of this culture, but a lot of these guys are going to have to prove themselves in the preseason. I also want to point out that of all of our selections, none of them were our own picks. So, yeah, that's kind of funny. I have an addiction to trading draft picks, I think, clearly, considering none of our picks were our own choices. So, yeah, let me know what you thought of our draft down below in the comments. Again, guys like Scotty Piggins, Jordan Ruffin, and Cardell Simpson are going to need to prove themselves in the preseason. We're not handing out starting jobs, but I am confident in all of these guys going forward. So I have a question for all of you guys before we wrap up today's episode. Would you guys rather I have a preseason live stream here on the channel within the next couple of days, or would you rather we just go right to the regular season and I briefly cover the preseason in a 5-minute excerpt before our first game against the Cleveland Browns? Let me know what you would rather down below in the comment section. I might make a community tab poll for it as well. So there you go. That's going to wrap up the episode. The 2023 NFL Draft is in the books. Again, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out. Tighten up.